Hello, I'm Dan Beltramo. I'm the CEO of Vizu, now a Nielsen company, and I'm joined here by Rob Candelino, Vice President of Brand Building for the Skincare Division at Unilever. Thanks for being here, Rob. Really
Pleasure to be here.
Appreciate it. Our subject matter today is online video advertising and brand advertising in particular. And I'll share a few stats to ground people a bit before we dive in for the main attraction here. In April, 181 million US internet users watched about 37 billion online content videos. So it's become definitely a channel. I think recently Netflix is now the biggest cable channel. So there's a whole disruption going on in the video environment. Digital video is expected to grow 22% this year, and video is going to take up about 17% of the advertising budgets in the online space. So it's becoming a reasonable chunk of the world. And Vizu is an ad effectiveness measurement vendor, measures a lot of this. And what we're seeing is the primary objectives that advertisers are measuring are purchase intent being the #1 objective that brand advertisers are trying to achieve, followed up by behavioral measures and then brand awareness. And the heaviest video advertisers online are, not surprisingly, CPG, entertainment, retail, and food. And we're seeing the best performance in online video in the CPG category, as well as consumer electronics and automotive. So that's just a little bit of background for online video and the space that we're operating in. What's very exciting is that Unilever has come out with a new line of men's products a couple of years ago. Is that right, Rob?
2010, yes.
And it's called Men Plus Care?
Dove Men Plus Care, correct.
Dove Men Plus Care. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about the objectives you were trying to achieve when you first launched that brand. And we'll start at a high level and, what's the message for the brand, and then a little bit how we'll move into video and how it played.
Sure. Some context about the Dove brand.
Great.
Launched in 1957 on the back of a promise to women that we wouldn't dry their skin like soap did. Women tried us, we didn't dry their skin, and 55 years later, we're still dominant, by far the #1 skin cleansing brand in America. And it's and in reaching that point, we've actually cultivated incredibly strong and rich two-way dialogue with our core consumers. It's something we're very proud of. It's something we nurture like a treasure, that relationship we have with women. A few years back, some very inspired predecessors of mine noticed that actually if you look at the consumption of the Dove product, the bar particularly, anywhere from 25 to 30% of it was actually being done by men.
Wow.
And it was either their wives said it's the best quality product in the category, so you should use it on your skin, or the dermatologist, it's the #1 dermatologist brand. So they were either told or found it themselves, but they were using it. And so we had a challenge. How do you take a brand that has 55 years of heritage, or at that point 52, 53 years of really strong heritage, speaking to women.
Iconic almost.
Iconic, yes, exactly. And that's often a word we use to describe the Dove bar. And actually introduce a men's product. Men's grooming is booming. It's the fastest growing part of the grooming, of the personal care category right now. And so we had a formidable challenge. We, obviously, as Unilever always does, went out and did a significant amount of research and learned that guys were very open to the proposition of a Dove branded product for them, but it had to be for them.
Right.
So we completely engineered the product for guys, new packaging, new formulas, new fragrances, new rinse properties, everything in accordance with what guys were telling us that they wanted from the product. That achieved the product ambition. Right? The biggest challenge we then faced was, well, there were two of them. One is, how do you get people to know about it? So the awareness piece that you mentioned. And the second is, how do you make a female-oriented brand relevant for guys? How do you get over what could be some stigma about guys seeing it as a female-oriented brand?
You're starting with a lot of equity, but it's not the equity you might have chosen to start with.
Right, fantastic product equity. The equity positioning to guys, we had to communicate, and we had to drive relevance with guys.
Right.
Out of that challenge was born our Journeys to Comfort campaign. So in its inaugural year, 2010, we launched the brand. It was featured on the Super Bowl. Our first ad was on the Super Bowl, and it chronicled in a somewhat irreverent, humorous way the journey that a man goes through to reach a point in his life where he's comfortable in his own skin. We all have those unheralded moments.
Still on the journey.
And we're still on the journey, and that's exactly right. And it's not a finite journey.
Right.
But it is a journey with seminal moments that shape who you are as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a son, as a professional. And that was very well received, incredibly well received.
I bet.
A few months later, we took learnings from that and said, okay, well, maybe there's something richer in this idea.
So
maybe.
It started on TV, the first
Absolutely.
bit of sharing or advertising. So that's interesting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The first major campaign
Yep.
was actually the Super Bowl ad.
Okay.
Because we want awareness,
Right.
right? How do you make it known that Dove is now
in a men's context?
In a men's context,
Yep.
exactly right. But the relevance piece was still big to us.
Yep.
And that's when we said, okay, well, where can we go? How can we relate to guys? And what are the stories that we can tell that are true to the brand and its heritage of featuring real people and telling real stories,
Yep.
and tell something that's engaging to guys coming from this new brand. Out of that impetus was born the Journeys to Comfort campaign. So we actually took major name baseball players at the time,
Yep.
Albert Pujols, Joe Girardi, Andy Pettitte, right? Three
Yep.
future Hall of Famers,
Yep.
who you would know for their ERAs and their batting averages,
Right.
Or their win percentages or whatever.
Yep.
You wouldn't know some of the stories that make them human beings, the real stuff,
Yep.
right? That their fans never get to hear. And we actually partnered with Major League Baseball. It was a digital-only campaign.
Yep.
We created vignettes
Yep.
that had these guys on their couches in their homes.
And it was conceived of as digital from the beginning.
It was
basically.
a digital-first campaign.
Yeah, that's
right?
great.
It was a digital idea. We said, partnering with Major League Baseball, our friends at Mindshare negotiated a fantastic deal where, together with MLB.com, we actually created these vignettes with these preeminent baseball players, talking about them as real men.
Yep.
Talking about why Girardi got braces, right? He did it because he didn't want to make his daughter feel uncomfortable because she had them.
Wow.
Remarkable.
Amazing. Yeah, that is a remarkable story.
We didn't ask them to hawk products.
Right.
We asked them to tell stories of who they are as real humans.
I was just watching some of the videos actually, and there was no mention of the product in the voiceover, or not the voiceover, but the actual speaking of the stars.
And that's by design, right? Because it wasn't true and it wasn't authentic.
Right.
And as a brand who has authenticity at its core, I think authenticity is a word now in marketing that's somewhat overused and everybody aspires to it. I think we've got a reputation on this brand, and it's something, as I said, that you have to treasure and nurture because it can be fleeting. So on Men Plus Care, what we were conscious of doing is telling real stories, even though these guys are famous for other reasons. Mm-hmm. This digital-only campaign, we launched it through MLB.com. The metrics we saw and the response was fantastic. Right? We didn't have, at the time, long-term visions on this campaign. It was an activation program in year to talk and drive relevance with guys.
Great.
We did the program with MLB. What we learned was engagement was massively high. There was a huge request from guys relaying back to us through digital channels that they wanted to learn more. They were really intrigued. They were inspired by a brand finally talking to them in a real way. As I always say, men's brands historically talk in a couple of different ways, but they're kind of predictable, and often men are spoken to as buffoons in the whole process.
Jokes or
macho
or
it's cheap.
Sex appeal. Right.
It's easy, right? We tend not to do that on Dove Men Plus Care. And so we talk to them as real guys, not hawking product, but talking about their real stories.
Great.
And that was incredibly salient and resonant with our guys, and they told us that. That digital campaign and the dynamism with which digital and online and video can give us, the responsiveness and the acuteness, gave us a ton of learning and inspired us to then create more refined, finished vignettes that we actually launched simultaneously on television and in digital properties, both online video as well as mobile, the following year.
This is exciting stuff to me because many years ago when we talked about online video with folks, I had the supposition that online video was always the tail and the dog was TV, but in this situation, the dog is online video. It was the genesis of the idea, and it started wagging the TV creative, which is fantastic.
It absolutely is, and I think in retrospect, it would have been easy for me to say, oh, we consciously treated it as an incubator, to kind of work the idea, refine it, and then go on television. I would be lying if I was told you that was the case.
And when you decided to go with video first, was it a realization about the audience you were going to be getting, or was it a budget issue? I mean, how was it that got created as an online video in the first place as opposed to a TV camp? Because you could have aired those those vignettes on TV, I suppose, at potentially greater expense.
Come back to the primary job.
Yep.
The primary job is relevance with guys.
Yep.
So here's a sport which is America's pastime, 3 future Hall of Famers, a willing and very capable and fantastic partner in MLB.com, so an engaging property, and content that we thought was really, really rich and powerful. That is best delivered, best delivered in that medium because of what digital affords you. It affords you that depth of engagement. I can watch the pool host thing. I can learn about how on Father's Day, you know, we launched a campaign on Father's Day with his story about how he loves his daughter and how he couldn't wait to get home to see her every day, right? But then you can access B-roll from that same platform about a tour of his house. And then you can access the iAd, which Dove Men Plus Care was the first CPG brand to do on the mobile Apple applications.
So you're able to extend it a lot easier in the video platform. That's actually a good point, because to try to do those extensions on TV is a lot harder and a lot more costly.
Exactly right. There's a depth of engagement that you can give to your audience should they want it. I will say though that what's true of online has also historically always been true on television and any other medium for that matter. Content is king. If you don't have content that's engaging, then you're lost. Right? So I think the challenge is now with so many different channels trying to speak to this consumer, and with a brand that prides itself on depth of engagement, and any decent marketer is going to try to reach all consumers and all of those touch points. At Dove Men Plus Care, we like to say, we like to reach him where he lives, works, plays, and shops. The interesting thing about the online video is with a swipe of a finger in 9 months, they can eviscerate, eviscerate 9 months worth of work. Right?
Absolutely.
And that's really a high bar. If you're not providing content that's really rich, if you're not providing content that's engaging or resonant with them, they will not pay attention to you. And I think that's a fantastic challenge for us as marketers. It ups the ante.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much competing for that airspace. And so I think we have to get better as a consequence of that.
And I don't know if you're even aware of how Vizu came to work with you, but it was through a company called ShareThrough. They're an online video network. And speaking of this opt-in and the quality of content, the way their network works is that they basically present these commercials in content in the relevant environment around the web, but they're not forced upon anybody. They're actually, people have to engage with them. They have to start the commercial and watch it. So it's very much reflective of that high bar of quality. Otherwise, nobody's going to participate and nobody's going to keep participating and watching it to the end. So I think it's interesting that we actually connected in a manner that reflects the quality that you were trying to achieve.
And this brand is, it's something we treasure a great deal at Unilever, and we constantly strive on Dove, both Dove and Dove Men Plus Care, to be at the forefront of new technologies. And so, if you fast forward now, this campaign is actually, we did run it, and we have a partnership with the NCAA. Unilever is an official partner. And so by leveraging the NCAA properties, we were actually on the 4 television stations, the 4 media stations that broadcasted on television, as well as other digital platforms at the same time the following March, so 2011.
Great.
We broadcast March Madness, and we had similar stories from Magic Johnson, Bobby Hurley, and John Thompson.
Awesome.
So we expanded the sports, expanded the profile, expanded the reach,
kept it fresh.
Based on the learnings. Exactly right. And based on the learnings that we got from the MLB work, that inspired and taught us a lot, actually, about how guys are interacting and how salient and resonant our message was.
And tell us a little bit about the kind of measurement or learnings and how you were extracting those learnings a bit. I mean, we've contributed it to in one way, but I'd like to hear what sort of resonated in your mind.
Yeah, and it may sound very typical from a large CPG manufacturer, but it is the basic principal objectives we had from the start. Are guys seeing it? Is it awareness? Is it engaging? And what are the metrics that drive your engagement scores? How long do they spend? How many clicks do they, on your RMUs, do they click on them? If so, what do they watch? Which one of the vignettes is most resonant to them? And that actually, the speed with which we get reads on that in the digital space can inspire what we do on television.
Absolutely. I think it's a great creative concept testing ground. And again, with ShareThrough, what Vizu actually measured on your campaign, I think overall on their platform was a 78% increase in awareness among people who were exposed to the campaign. So they definitely hit the bell. And then what they were able to do is pick and I think show you which ads drove awareness better than other ones. And I think it was part of the contribution to figuring out which they, at least that's our way of taking a slight bit of credit for all the mastermind genius that you guys put into it. Tell us a little bit about the team that went into creating this, because I know, you know, it's part Unilever, but I know there's a cast of characters out there, and how do you, how did you arrive at this video concept and
please do take your part of the credit for it, because you know, there's plenty of credit to go around. It's work that personally I'm exceptionally proud of. We've now done it. We did it NCAA basketball. We did it NCAA football. We did it again this past year in NCAA basketball. So it's kind of, you know, been proven now in market, and its resonance has been unquestionable. So on the metric of relevance with guys, we seemingly have delivered. And for that, I think our team has done a blockbuster job. So our friends at Mindshare, who negotiate our media deals, the original deal with MLB, and then the subsequent deals with the NCAA, and what we've done and how we've amplified it.
And were they the ones who brought to you that insight that there was a higher concentration of men watching online video than they could find on TV, or where did that insight come? Because that's an important media channel choosing, you know, and that could drive.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few nuggets, and to be honest, I can't really pinpoint where they came from, but they're just kind of etched in my mind, right? Occupy, you know, I operate in a bit of soundbite world. And a couple of soundbites which have really stuck to me in this space is men tend to consume, so what is it, 92% of men are online every week doing something in the social media space. They don't navigate social media like women do. There's a fundamental difference in how they actually execute it, and understanding that difference is very important. We did that, and our friends at Edelman, who help us on our social media strategy, figured that out for us and talked to us about that. But then the other important point is the point I think that you're getting to, 2-to-1 ratio. When it comes to video content online, guys consume it 2 times more than women. Right, 2/3, 1/3. So if you have a campaign that's highly relevant, really engaging, really thoughtful, we like to think breakthrough for our category. Digital is a natural home for it, given that guys are there, they're looking for messaging like that, and we know that they consume the medium.
That's perfect.
So we think that, you know, with the help of Mindshare, who helped orchestrate the media partnership, Edelman, who handles our PR and our social media, the Ryan Partnership, who does our digital strategy and creates some of the unique add-ons to the campaign, so games that we use on the mobile devices and those sorts of things, as well as our friends at Davy Brown, who actually produced the vignettes. It was a true full team effort, choreographed and orchestrated by our team back at the ranch. But it was absolutely a full team effort.
And what's interesting to me is that you know, you get a PR agency involved in what was more traditionally the advertising realm here, but I think that's the social component of it is really putting an element of advertising in what is the PR realm and managing that public relations. So
what is advertising today?
Right, exactly. It's blurring, you know, social media in particular blurs it very into the PR realm.
Social media primarily consumed and executed in a digital space. So is it digital or is it social?
Right, hard to.
And it's something that the industry is trying to figure out. No one has it cracked. What we try to do at Dove every day is look at our job, look at the, you know, be very choiceful about what it is we're going to do, what the job is that we need to do, and then creating the richest content to then do it, right? And what we are blessed with, I think, I call it the A-team, my inner circle, advisors, partners, internal team, I couldn't be more proud of them. On this campaign in particular, because I think what we've done is we've really choreographed this beautifully. We have the content, which is really engaging. We have the media partners, which are fantastic and delivering exceptionally well. And then we have all the other touch points, the social, the mobile, the online, as well as the television, all playing their distinct roles to achieve the jobs of resonance and awareness.
Now as part of Nielsen, I think, you know, we've been focused very much on ad effectiveness, but now all this audience measurement is it's going to be something that we can work well together and start to relate to your TV efforts very nicely.
Absolutely.
How about the, tell me a little bit about the mobile piece. Have you, when you think about mobile, is that mobile banner ads or is it mobile video? And do you develop different content for mobile, or is that kind of still under the umbrella of online video?
No, I think you, to do it right, there's a time and a place. But I think you need to have appropriate content for each screen. Right? Because otherwise, each screen plays a distinct role in the consumer's life. If you then try to force feed one-size-fits-all content, you lose the content and the engagement that I spoke about earlier,
Yep.
and then you're lost.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's not about the platform.
Right.
It's about the content.
Right.
The content fits the platform. If the platforms are different, then you need tailored content.
Right.
To a degree.
Yeah.
Now, that's not an open letter. It's not an open brief. It's not an open budget
Right.
to our teams to then go
Right.
off and say, here's my mobile strategy, here's my
No, they gotta
tablet
be
strategy.
like lockstep.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
What's the brand strategy
Yep.
with its idea at its core?
Right.
And what's the best way to execute it in each of the platforms?
Right. Yeah. No, we find working with brand advertisers really important to maintain that primary objective of the ad campaign
Right.
and make sure that that's communicated broadly across every element of the digital media supply chain, and that's the creative, the PR firm, the the publishers and the people distributing it. And if you're focused on that primary message, then a lot of the things work themselves out.
And it's easy to get lost.
Very
It's
easy.
easy to get
Yeah.
lost there.
Yeah.
Because of the excitement in mobile, let's
Right.
go do mobile.
Right.
Mobile plays a role.
Right.
Mobile is absolutely critical.
Right.
So is television.
Yep.
So is tablet.
Yep. Yep.
So is your Facebook page.
Yep.
So is
and
your
trying
website.
to measure them in a consistent way, I think, is important. As an old brand manager, I know people come with. It seemed like for a long time every medium had its own different metric,
Right.
and that's very hard to internalize as a brand person, because you're like, wow, it sounds good, but how much does it really? I can't compare these things.
Right.
And being able to have a uniform set of measurement across all of those is an important mission that we've been on, and you guys have embraced in a strong way. Rob, tell me a little bit about online video, and do you view this as a revolution in an ability to convey advertising, or is it just an incremental evolution and the next step from TV? Is it how new is it, and yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult question because
Right.
I think it would be easy to say it's a revolution. I
Right.
think there's an argument to say that it's been long in the making and it's
Right.
actually surprisingly slow,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Which would lead me to say it's evolutionary.
Yeah.
I think you have to look at it in a historical context.
Mm-hmm.
Television was so transformative
Yep.
overnight,
Yep.
right? It's taken a while for online video, largely because of marketers' embracing of it,
Yep.
how omnipresent television still is
Right.
In American society, the ability of just bandwidth,
Yeah,
right?
basic
The
functionality.
basic functionality,
Yep.
the systems
Right.
stuff needs
Yep.
to be there.
Yep.
And I think that's actually held it back a
Yeah,
little bit.
I think that was the primary, in my mind, that held it back. I mean, if
Yeah.
advertisers could get the message reliably and quickly to a lot of people, it would have been embraced a lot earlier. I think the fact that there wasn't the bandwidth, and there's still a content scarcity. I mean, as
Right.
far as I can see, there's not, and that's supported by the pricing in online video. There's not enough good content
Yeah.
to put all this video advertising around.
Absolutely. And so in that context, I would answer your question and say, I think it's been more or less evolutionary to this point.
Yep.
I think the revolution is yet to come.
Yep.
I think there is going to be that transformative, seminal moment where it actually tips.
Yep.
And all other mediums
Yep.
will actually be forced to fall into line.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? I think everyone's...
It's getting close because
It's
it's
getting
all
close.
starting to be digital. It's digital TV, digital mobile, digital online.
Exactly right.
And pretty soon they're starting to.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Because if you look fundamentally what digital allows you to do, what online
Yeah.
video allows you to do, that depth of engagement.
Yeah.
So I can now watch a Journeys to Comfort campaign with, pick Kirk Herbstreit.
Yep.
We did one with for the football season last
Yep.
year, NCAA football. Great, fantastic. Really interested.
Yep.
Let me learn more about Kirk.
Right.
Press a button.
Bang. Right.
I get B-roll.
Right.
Press a button. Let me learn more about the products.
Right.
Now you have product messaging. Well, that's
All
interesting.
more measurable. I mean, now tracked with all kinds of great measurement that allows
Exactly
you to
right.
really figure out, hey, does the fact that he clicked on this and watched a little more move him incrementally more towards a purchase or loyalty
right.
or whatever.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And then there's so many layers
Yep.
of that engagement. Should the content that is meeting the consumer at every one of those layers
Yep.
be powerful enough, engaging enough?
Yep.
And that is a depth of engagement that this medium provides, which other mediums to date
Right.
are still nascent in doing. I think they will get there.
Right. Right.
But I believe it's still relatively nascent in comparison to where online video
And then
is.
eventually TV will catch up with online and there'll be more interactivity there at some point. So it's this constant evolution of all of them, I think.
I'd probably say you're right,
Yeah.
my view, my
Yep.
personal opinion, and that's a good thing.
Yep.
I think what's true is the days of one-way force-fed communication and expecting the consumers to sit and take it, they're done.
Right.
Right? So again, I come back to the point. You have responsibility as a marketer and the responsibility to your brand to do something really sensational and engaging. Otherwise, consumers will tune you out with a swipe of a finger.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a brilliant, fantastic challenge.
Right.
That at least
and a permanent one.
and it's a permanent and perpetual one. So I think it's wonderful. And those of us that I can speak for my company, Unilever embraces that wholeheartedly. Most particularly, I would say on Dove, which as I said, is very proud of its pioneering spirit in this space.
Very much. I mean, we've been working with Unilever for many years now. Actually, you were one of the first brand clients that Vizu ever had, and you were literally the first ones to embrace this kind of measurement online and the concept of brand lift, and we're appreciative of that long-term relationship. Let's see. Are there limitations of online video that are frustrating you right now, or are you sort of is it developing fast enough that you're just kind of consuming all the new capabilities that are out there?
I wouldn't say I'm frustrated with anything. In actual fact, it is difficult because there is so much. So I'll give you a perfect example. We pioneered two brand new technologies this year. One of which is the Star technology, really cool. So Star Dove Men Care, Star Dove. You type it into your mobile, sends you a text. You click on the text link, and it gives you branded content, whatever you choose to provide.
Great,
brilliant, fantastic, new. Will this thing explode? Will this become, Star, they've used with other brands. You see it on television now, and it's starting to become part of many advertising campaigns from many brands. That's really interesting. It probably takes on QR codes in a more head-on way, right? So there's a competitor, there's a viable alternative to most of the things that are out there, and that's good for us. It's good for us as an industry because it's
keeps healthy, keeps innovation.
Exactly right. But I think there's a lot in the spirit. The other one that I was going to mention is Vigil. Right? We were an early adopter of Vigil, the intersection of Foursquare and Shazam. Right? With rewards, real rewards for consumers who log on. We were an early adopter of that technology.
Excellent.
Is that going to blow up? Well, we don't know. But you need to have a pioneering spirit.
Be there, testing it.
Exactly. So I think we're very satisfied that there are plenty of unique, cool, innovative things that we continue to pilot and test, and we obviously pay attention to our competitors who are doing good stuff as well.
So frustrations with online video, Rob, are there any, or are you trying to just keep up with all the innovation at this point?
No frustrations per se. I would tell you that I'm actually encouraged by the amount of innovation in the space. So two new technologies that we at Dove have partnered with this year is testament to the kind of both our pioneering spirit and the innovation in the space. One is Star technology from your mobile device, really cool new technology. And the other is Vigil, which is basically the intersection of Foursquare and Shazam that offers rewards to consumers for logging on to television programs or for watching an ad in a digital environment.
So it's impressive to me, Rob, that you're actually that dialed into this new technology. I mean, sometimes I wonder, as you go up in the ranks of a manufacturer and advertiser, how disconnected you get from the media, but not at all. I mean, you're right down to the kind of the most innovative stuff. So you obviously put a bit of a priority on it as an individual.
You have to. I mean, much like I would shop the stores, and I would try to live the lifestyle of many of our consumers across my whole spectrum of brands, it's in our DNA at Unilever. I think you have to understand where your consumer is and where they're going. And so part of this we call living the space, and you have to be a part of this in order to be relevant in the space. So these are two new technologies. So nothing frustrating. Actually, most of it is encouraging and exciting. What I would say is yet to come that we are awaiting is how you then convert to purchase. What digital allows you to do is actually the first interaction all the way to conversion to purchase. And every single step in between that the consumer could possibly want. Product reviews, sharing socially with your friends, getting your friends to weigh in on your purchase, seeing equity communications, any relevant brand,
the whole influence cycle and
everything. It's all there in the space. And channeled the right way, you can actually take your consumer along their entire journey.
And you can complete the transaction online.
Complete the transaction online. Now, is it going to be there tomorrow? We don't know. I don't think so. And most of our focus is still clearly bricks and mortar. That is where our bread is still buttered, if you will. But it's interesting as a marketer to understand that you have to be relevant in every space, because the consumer different consumers will be expecting different things from each one of those layers that the online space provides, which previously had not been there.
Yep.
Not a frustration, but it is something to watch.
An opportunity that you're shooting for. Just having recently merged my company with Nielsen, I think that's one of the exciting pieces of it, is that Nielsen has so much of this consumption data that we haven't had, and that's the holy grail of advertising, is we can track the influence all the way down to actual purchase, which I think we'll be able to do in the offline world first, and then bring it on the online at the appropriate time. On the media planning piece, so you've identified a couple of these new things that you're trying out. How does that work, from a budgeting point of view? How are those budgeting by channel made, and when you get to online video, is that now risen to the point where it's considered an important channel, or is it everything that you just mentioned sort of a subset of an online, a certain amount that gets allocated online because it's still new, or is online now right up there with TV and anything else you might do?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, what is your objective?
Yep.
What content do you have or wish to create?
Yep.
And then you figure out the right ways to develop it. So I think I don't want to sound evasive of the question, but it varies.
Yeah, by brand.
It varies by brand,
objective,
by budget, right? Because
Yep.
sometimes television is not cheap.
Yep.
And television plays a very distinct awareness role.
Right.
That big brands, high degree of penetration, fiercely competitive, we have to have a certain degree of television.
Yep.
Is it 60%, 65%, 30%, 20%? We don't know,
Yep.
right? I think it's based on the objective and the job to be done at that time. I will tell you that all platforms are on the table, and when we're considering deployment of budgets, we do look at, well, what are the right places to go? Online and digital video in particular is now being talked about in the same vein as print and the other main heavyweights, right? And I would say the other part of your question is, where's the budget for those pioneering little things? And there, again, in order to...
And who makes those decisions? Is it somebody on your media team who says, hey, let's take 5% of our budget and try star technology, or is it somebody, one of your brand managers who becomes exposed to some capability or has a vision for what, where his audience might be, or her audience?
There's no consistent. I mean, the end decision maker is the client, is Unilever, right? And depending on this amount of spend, it'll depend on who makes that final call. Our brand managers are very empowered, right? I'm the first guy to tell you that I'm blessed to have an exceptional team who is all over the stuff, and they're counseled by the best in the industry.
So if they identify something they believe in, it's fully possible or probable that they can, allocate budget and make it happen there.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And it's, hey, Rob, I want to spend 0.5% of my budget on Dove Men Plus Care to try out this new technology. Okay. Tell us how it goes. Right. I think you have to have, as long as I keep saying to my team, put the big rocks in the jar. Right. Fix the big things first, and then think about your future. And your future, we don't know where it's going to go. So it was once said to me, I think one of our ad agencies said to me in a meeting once, and it stuck with me: set a lot of fires, and then throw gas on the one that takes hold. Makes sense. And I think that's very much the spirit of how we look at.
And that's this online campaign is a perfect example of that. It seemed like it was working. Now it's been tweaked but evolved. That's fantastic. Do you have any brands that are entire media budget is online now, or is that still a rarity at this point?
No, it's still a rarity. I think because if the principle that guides us is to reach our consumer where he or she lives, works, plays, and shops.
And most of your brands are very broad appeal, so it's that makes sense.
I think, but I will tell you, there are brands that don't have television. And in those instances, when you're trying to get awareness and depth of engagement and everything else, actually digital plays a very important role, or video online plays a very critical role to augment what we can't afford to do in television. And that isn't always the case, but it varies, again, by the job and the tactics and the degree of innovation and competitive heat and all those other things that we consider.
We talked a lot about measuring ad effectiveness in terms of engagement and Vizu's brand lift metrics and different ways to identify which creative and which channels work for you. How about audience measurement and making sure that your message is targeting the right people, and actually beyond targeting the right people, actually getting to the right people. Is that an activity that you're engaged with, and how does that play out in the process?
Yeah, and I think so. As we vet ideas, we say job to be done,
yep.
and where we're going with it.
Yep.
I think that's where the experts that we have on the team, the core team, help counsel us.
Yep.
So we think, and it's not an exact science, as you know, right?
Right.
We're still learning. We're finding our feet as an industry.
Right.
How you metrics this, and
yep.
we don't know.
Yep.
But I would tell you, measuring television ratings isn't an exact science either.
No, not at all.
Right.
Right.
And it's the best we've had
right.
for the 60, 70 years that we've been
right.
buying media on television.
Right.
I think the opportunities in digital are perhaps greater to get accuracy.
I know, yeah. I can say that.
It's your livelihood
right.
to say
Absolutely,
that, right?
Yeah.
So and we want accuracy. We
right.
want to buy accuracy because it helps sharpen our messaging,
right.
and our proposition. And ultimately, the consumer is better off. And that's my day job.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I come to work every day. My team is passionate about doing what's right for the consumer, giving
right.
them content that's engaging, that they care about,
right.
that they want to spend a minute of their precious time watching.
Right.
Or preferably 2 minutes.
Right. Right.
3 would even be better.
Right.
And then ultimately to buy the product because we are so proud of the product.
Right.
But so the metrics thing is not a perfect science.
Yep.
It's getting better, not
yep.
where we need it to be yet.
Right, yeah, always evolving. Rob, you have this great successful ad campaign, and I know you've been measuring it many ways, but tell us a little bit about some of the key metrics that you're using and how you'd like to see those metrics evolve to better inform your decision making.
Yeah, so I think many of them are some of the usual suspects, right? So what type of awareness, what type of penetration, what degree of engagement do we get from the guys? Mm-hmm. How many people engage? How many people click on the RMUs or play the video game? What's their time spent?
Yep.
Those sort of things,
yep.
right? So they're the predictable ones.
Yep.
The difficult one, and I think your follow-up question is probably going to be something around,
yep.
well, what's the ROI on that stuff, right?
Right.
And how do I track and how do we measure that?
Yep.
It's a difficult thing to track
mm-hmm.
Because what is the value of someone spending 3 minutes playing a video game
right.
that's housed in your website that's related to your campaign?
You have to measure the influence, and then you have to measure the reaction to that influence.
Exactly right, and
right.
that, as we've talked about, is not a perfect science,
right?
But I do believe that based on what we've seen today, without disclosing kind of too much
mm-hmm.
That I'm not at liberty to do, I will tell you that we are delighted with the returns that we're getting on all of the metrics on
Great.
the Men Plus Care campaign. The level of investment has increased from its inception at MLB.com to
Great.
the NCAA and television, and where it may go in the future, we don't know.
Yep.
We genuinely don't.
It's fun when you have a brand like that where it's starting to work, and then you can invest more and you get better and it works better. And I mean, that's the virtuous loop that you really try to achieve with the brand, and it's hard to do.
Absolutely, and I think, and it delivers on, I come back to the fundamentals that we're trying to do. Your measurements should absolutely reflect what your fundamental drivers of the campaign were at their inception.
Right.
And for us, from the start, it's been trial and awareness and relevance with guys.
Yep.
And those are the two most important metrics that we look at. And of course, as a commercial leader, we have to look at whether that's an efficient spend and whether we're getting the return and
right.
all of those things.
Right.
Those are the responsible things to do. But I'll tell you that we've been very pleased with the success.
That's great. The way that we sort of frame it at Nielsen is the 3 R's: reach. Are you reaching the right people?
Right.
Is there resonance? Is it resonating the way you want it to? And then what's the reaction? Which was that final, are you closing the sale? And
right.
that's how we distill it. But it sounds like we're on the same wavelength there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks. So Rob, we've talked a lot about this very innovative campaign. I'm sure there's people out there who would like to learn more about it. Where could they go to learn more about this campaign?
The best place is online. dovemencare.com.
Great.
And you'll find everything you need to know. You'll find some of the ads that I spoke about. You'll find all the product information. And for any of the guys out there who are looking for a new cleansing product or deodorant product, then I would implore you to kind of try it.
The right place to try.
Yeah,
I think you also have a YouTube channel with a lot of that content there that I saw that was fantastic.
Yes, we do.
Well, this has been extremely exciting for me, Rob, because as I said many years ago, I always wondered, how online would take off. And as a pioneer for online brand advertising and a former brand person, I knew it had a lot of potential. But it's great to see a company and a brand executing with such excellence and in such an innovative spirit. And actually, as you said, in this case, seeing online take the lead to some degree in, where appropriate, it's sort of informing TV at this point. And I know that's not the case everywhere, but it's great to see it happening here. And
it has its places for sure.
Yeah.
And there's probably going to be a lot more of that.
Yeah, no, I would expect so. Thank you very much, Rob.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.